All right, geometry students, this week we're going to work on some parallel lines. All right, we're going to wrap up this unit and we're going to have some sort of assessment Wednesday or Thursday this week. All right? All right, working with the parallel lines cut by the transversal creates a whole number of different angle relationships. All right? Now, just so we're aware of, this line that cuts through the parallel lines is called the transversal. So that when you see me refer to the transversal, it's this line that cuts through the two parallel lines. All right? Now, if you need to, pause the video so that you could jot down these angle definitions. All right? The first relationship is called alternate interior angles. Okay, alternate means it alternates from one side, like angle 4 is to the left of the transversal and 6 is on the right. So alternate means different sides. Interior means inside. So angles 3, 4, 5, and 6 are in between the parallel lines. They're inside. All right? Alternate, bottom line is, alternate interior angles are congruent. All right? The way you identify them is it's formed by this Z shape. So if I trace the parallel line and then go down the transversal and trace this line, it forms the Z shape. All right? And the angles within it, 4 and 6, are going to be congruent. So angle 4 is congruent to angle 6. They're equal to each other. Now, you could also get it going backwards, which looks like a deformed kind of slanted S shape. So if I go backwards like this, it's like a backwards Z or like a crooked S. Those angles, 3 and 5, they're also going to be congruent. Those are alternate interior. One's to the right, one's to the left. Those two angles are obtuse. The two obtuse ones are going to be congruent. And then the two acute ones, 4 and 6, are congruent. Okay? The next angle relationship is corresponding angles, okay? And these are the angles that overlap if you took one parallel line and slid it down so that it overlapped the other. Okay, so if I took these and I slid them down, hopefully you will see that angle 1 is in the same position as angle 5, right? 1 would overlap 5. Right? See how 1's on the top left? And on these 4 angles, 5 is on the top left. So angle 1 is congruent to angle 5. Those are corresponding because they're in the same location. Now there's a whole bunch of pairs of these. There's 4 sets. If I took angle 2 and I slid this down, it would overlap angle 6. See that? They're both on the top right. And then going down the line, 3 is in the same spot, bottom right, as 7. So if I took these and slid them down, 2 would overlap 6, 3 would overlap 7, 1 would overlap 5, 4 would overlap 8. All right, so these are all called corresponding. Okay? There's one more angle relationship that's new. The rest of them you already know. Okay, and the last one is alternate exterior. And this is very similar to alternate interior. Right? These are exterior angles that are on opposite sides. So my exterior are 1, 2, 7, and 8. Notice 1 is to the left of the transversal, 7's to the right. So they alternate sides. 1 is congruent to 7. You should notice that 1 and 7 are both obtuse. So the 2 exterior ones that are obtuse are going to be congruent. And then the 2 that are acute are going to be congruent. Notice how 2 is to the right of the transversal and 8's to the left. They're both acute. They're going to be congruent. Okay? Very rarely do you need to memorize these definitions, but you do need to be able to identify which ones are congruent, because we're going to get into different questions where the pictures are going to be more complicated than these, and you got to know which angles are equal to each other. All right? The last two relationships are vertical angles and supplementary. All right? And I'm not going to label them all. You're going to see them. You're going to remember these, right? So if I cover up this part, this parallel line, if you look, I got vertical angles here. So angle 1 would be congruent to 3. They're vertical. And then angle 2 would be congruent to angle 4. Those are vertical. And then since they're corresponding, 1's to 5, 1's equal to 5, and then 5 and 7 are vertical, so they're equal. So basically 1, 3, 5, and 7 are all equal. 2 and 4 are vertical, and since 4 corresponds to 8, 4 is equal to 8, 8's equal to 6, so 8, 6, 4, and 2 are all equal to each other. All right? And then the last relationship would be supplementary. All right? Basically, any two that are next to each other are supplementary, like angle 1 and 2. See, if I put the two arcs together, they form a half circle. So if I added angle 1 and angle 2 together, they would be 180. But then, if you look, if I cover that up so you could see it, if I drew the arcs in for 2 and 3, they form the straight line. So 2 and 3 would be supplementary. So you got a whole sort of different relationships that are all intertwined into one. All right, and if you look, like to give you another example, 6 and 7, they're next to each other. So basically, they form a straight line, so they're supplementary. They add to 180. So angle 6 and angle 7 equals 180. All right? I could list a whole bunch of different scenarios that the two angles add to 180. I'm just showing you a couple of examples, okay? Like 7 and 8. See, if I cover that up, 7 and 8 form a straight line. All right, so the big picture here, all right? 3 things you should take out of this. All acute angles are congruent. Acute angles are congruent. All of the obtuse angles are congruent. All right? And lastly, if you have one acute and one obtuse, there's no way they're equal. They're going to equal 180. So all the acute angles, 2, 4, 6, and 8, they're all equal. All the obtuse ones, 1, 3, 5, and 7, they're equal to each other. And then if you have one acute and one obtuse, for example, one's obtuse, 2 is acute, they add up to 180. Right? 5 is obtuse, 8 is acute. If I'm working with those two angles, they're going to add to 180. You could have angle 1 is obtuse, and maybe you're working with angle 8. One obtuse, one acute, they're going to be 180. Right? So take a look at this picture I gave you. All right? All you need is one angle measure here, and you could figure out all the other 7 angles. So you don't have to go in any specific order. So I know this angle is 130. If I want to find angle 3 next, I could do that. Angle 3 would be 130 also, because they're vertical. If I needed to find out angle 5, 130 and 5 are corresponding, so they're going to be equal to each other. They're both obtuse. So 5 would be 130. Okay? Let's say I wanted to find angle 4. Well, together these two, they form the straight line. One's obtuse, one's acute. They have to be 180. So angle 4 would be 180 minus 130, so 4 would be 50. And then these would be vertical, so these have to be 50. These 4 and 8, right? If I slid it down, 4 would overlap 8. They would be equal. They're corresponding, that's 50. Or I could say that these two have to be 180. And then you got vertical here, so 6 is 50. You got vertical there. So the end result, all the obtuse angles are 130. All the acute angles are 50. All right? So if you look at the next one, right? This angle's 20. Right? 7 and this angle, they're vertical. So this is 20. 7 matches up, overlaps with 3. So 3's got to be 20. 1 and 3, they're equal. So that's got to be 20. Then you could look at all the different possible 180-degree relationships, right? These form 180. So 6 has got to be 180 minus 20. So that's 160. And then, you know, this has got to be 160. Then 8 overlaps 4. That's 160. So in this situation, all the obtuse are 160. All the acute are 20. All right? Now, if you look at the next page, that's going to incorporate some of the algebra. Okay? But here's the bottom line. If both angles are acute, then they're going to be equal. If they're both obtuse, they're going to be equal. If they're not the same, if one's obtuse and one's acute, then they're 180. All right, so let me get you started. All right, let me model like 3 examples. I'm just going to get the equation set up. You guys are pros at solving these now. I'm going to have you solve them, and then I'll post solutions. You could check your work. So look at number 1 for example. Okay, these are the 2 angles we're working with. This one down here, this one up top. All right. Again, you don't necessarily have to know the relationship, but these are corresponding. All right, because if I slide these down, this is top right, this is top right, they match up. Even if you didn't know that, hopefully you would notice that this angle is acute, meaning less than 180, and this angle is acute. They're both acute, they gotta be equal. So 3x plus 4 equals x plus 18. All right, then you would solve for x, and then to get the angle relationship, you would plug it back in. All right? Look at number 2, for instance. Okay, this angle is obtuse. And then I look at this one, the other one given. This is obtuse, meaning greater than 90. This one's acute, meaning less than 90. There is no way these are equal. So these have to be 180. So I'm going to add 3y plus 90 plus 7y. That's going to equal 180. All right, this one I'm going to solve real quick, show you how to get all the angles. So I'm going to combine 3y and 7y. 10y plus 90 equals 180. Subtract 90. 10y is going to equal 90. Divide by 10, y is 9. All right? To get the angle measures, I'm going to plug it in. This one's 7 times 9, so this is 63. This one's acute. Now you know all the acute ones, they're going to be 63. So this one's 63, this one's going to be 63, and this one's going to be 63. Then if you wanted, you don't even have to plug the 9 in here, but you could if you wanted to. You know that these two, they have to form 180. So this one's just 180 minus 63, 117 degrees. That means all the other obtuse ones are 117. So this one's 117, this one's 117, and then the one that we were given originally, that one's 117. All right? Let me set up 2 more, and then you could finish up this page and the next page. All right, so number 3. Check it out. You got an acute. This one's an obtuse. There's no way they're equal. So they're going to add up to 180. 5x plus 5 plus 4x minus 23 equals 180. All right? Finish solving that one, plug it in, find all the angle measures. All right? Check out number 2. Take a look. Try to decide, are these equal? Number 4. Decide, are these equal or are these 180? So you want to look at the size of the angle. Okay, this angle. Bigger than 90, obtuse. Then you got this angle. Look at the angle measure. All right? They're both obtuse. Then they're going to be equal. So 6x minus 17 is going to equal 3x plus 40. All right? Just to go back and recap, number 1, they were both acute. They're equal, right? This is one of every scenario. Number 3, you had one obtuse and one acute. They're 180. And number 2, one obtuse, one acute, gotta be 180, all right? So finish up this page and the next page, all right? I'll post answers by tomorrow. Email me with any questions, okay? Have a good day, everyone. Speak to you soon.